Welcome to Pocket Roni. We're going to be talking about negative exponents, so how to go from negative to positive exponents and vice versa. The main thing to remember, if you change the sign of the exponent, you change the place of the base. Okay, looking at 19C number 1, as a reminder, the 3 is the base, the 2 is the exponent. The instructions on this problem is to write it on one line, meaning I don't want it as a fraction. Right now I have 1 over 3 squared. I don't want it in a fraction, I want it on one line. So if I move the base up to where it's in the numerator, right now it's in the denominator, but if I want to write it on one line to where the base is in the numerator, if I move the base, I have to change the sign of the exponent. If you change the place of the base, you have to change the sign of the exponent. Or the vice versa, if you change the sign of the exponent, you have to change the place of the base. So if I want to move the base up, the exponent has to become a negative exponent. Remember, we don't ever multiply out negative exponents. You only multiply out an exponent if it's positive. This negative in the exponent has nothing to do with the negative in front of the number. 3 to the negative 2 is not negative 9, okay? As you can see here, 3 to the negative 2 equals 1 over 3 squared, which is 1 over 9. A negative exponent implies a fraction number, okay? So this negative has nothing to do with the negative out front. This negative tells you you need to move it down to the denominator for it to be positive. Looking at 19C number 3, still the same instructions to write it on one line. So I do not want the 7 in the denominator. I want to move it up to where it's written in the numerator. But if I change the place of the base, I have to change the sign of the exponent. So moving this up to where it would be like 7 over 1, moving it to the numerator, I have to change the sign of the exponent, so that becomes 7 squared. If you want to multiply that out to 49, either answer is acceptable. Okay, jumping down to number 19C, number 2, the instructions say write using a positive exponent. We now have 2 to the negative 4. We want it to be a positive exponent. You can make any number a fraction by putting it over 1. If I change the sign of my exponent, I have to change the place of my base. Since I want to make this exponent positive, I now have to move this down to the denominator. So this now becomes, your numerator becomes a 1, not a 0. It becomes 1 over 2 to the 4th. If you want to multiply that out, that becomes 1 over 2 to the 4th. 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16. Either of these answers is acceptable. Looking at 19C number 4, you have y to the negative 5th. They want you to make it a positive exponent. In order to change the sign of the exponent, you change the place of the base. Right now, this is like y to the negative 5th over 1. I want to change the place of the base. Right now, it's in the numerator. I want to move it to the denominator so that I can make that exponent positive. So this now becomes 1 over y to the 5th. Y to the 5th.